here we are again. I'm in my professional zoot suit and looking all professional now. I want to discuss something today, and it has to do with, after these decades of working with Kenpo, and what I'm going to discuss today is the hand for when we strike. Now, we all know what a punch is. Sure. And people, different systems have different ways of holding their fingers when they are clenching their fist. I was taught one time to have all of my fingers down, tucked into here, and then folded over so I would strike the front two knuckles. I was told later that all of the fingertips should be in the crease of my palm when I struck with my front two knuckles. And for a while I made fun of Gichin Funakoshi because in all of his pictures he had his fist closed and this finger was straight. His thumb was over it. He had all of his fingers down like normal, but this finger was straight and the thumb was over it, kind of like this. And his students after him also did it. I was told by my Okinawan instructors that it's because he had arthritis. Well, okay. He had arthritis, so why did all of his students just imitating monkey see, monkey do? Well, that's what students do. The way that we are taught. We copy our elders, our betters a lot of times, without really understanding why we're doing it, why they're doing it, and things of that nature. Well, unfortunately for me, at 75, Arthur and his itis has struck me also. Now I have difficulty holding my hand like I was taught. So what I have been doing is I have been bringing my fingers down in this manner and bringing my thumb over the top to hold this one down because it really has problems staying down. And then I hit with the top two knuckles. Lo and behold, I found out that I can hit the bag and the makiwara every bit as hard as I could with my hand folded up the way I'd been taught before. Now, I was wondering about it, and I remember a video that I saw where one of his people stated that when he was close to death, he was putting his hand out like he was punching, and he made the statement to himself mostly that it was a shame that now he'd just gotten comfortable with it. In other words, he'd gotten comfortable with his punch, possibly, quite possibly, due to the fact that the way he'd been taught originally really wasn't working for him. And he might have noticed that it does not really work for all the people. In fact, when you think about the way we've been taught in the beginning, no matter how they phrase it or put it or make us form our hands, we are hitting with the top of these bones. Right in here. We're hitting with them. We're holding the wrist straight, so these are straight. These aren't. We've been given every kind of tall tale about why we do that. But in reality, as I found when hitting the heavy bag and the makiwara, I don't need to have these fingers tightly clenched into my fist. All I have to do is make sure I strike with my knuckles, the top two preferably. I can still make the bending motions that I need to make when I make contact with the target area. The twist, as my Okinawan instructors told me, is like we do in kata, is strictly a reminder that we have different entry methods and different methods of damaging when we hit. That's the purpose of the twist, to remind us. It's a reminder. It's not the way we're supposed to punch. It's to remind us that you twist the fist appropriately. If you're striking along the jawline, if you're striking into the chin, uppercuts, things of this nature. I've learned that that is the most intelligent thing I've been taught. And now that I've gotten older, and it is almost impossible for me to close my fist properly, thanks to Arthur, I can actually do it in this manner. As long as I strike with the tops of my knuckles, going back, my wrist is straight, elbows down, everything's in line, brushing my ribs as I make the strike. Everything I did before to develop the power and the lethality of my strikes, but without the clenching of the hand. Why are we taught the original way that I was shown? Well, I think it was a training aid, because a lot of people do not properly hit. They will hit on this part. They'll hit flat, but they won't hit with their knuckles, usually, unless they're taught over and over and over. I know the Chinese like to hit sometimes with the back three. Now, there are times when I will admit there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, you can deliver the power into your target in a different manner than if you hit here and do the same movement. This is not ineffective. The problem with it is, if you strike something hard, the skull, an elbow, you massively increase the risk of fracturing the small bone in your hand. It's called a boxer's fracture by doctors, and for a good reason. Because boxers constantly, because of the fact they wear gloves and they have their hands wrapped and all of that, they hit a lot of times with this little part of their hand, the little bone, and it breaks when it hits something very hard. Now, it won't break if you hit a softer part or hit into the ribs. It won't break. But by golly, if you run into his elbow on the way in, yes, it will. And speaking of the elbow, running into the elbow on the way in, when you're shooting in under the elbow, you definitely do not want your thumb to be here. You prefer it to be here. This way, the elbow passes and does not catch on the thumb, fracturing or dislocating it. Here, and I see this in Shorin-ryu constantly, when I'm doing that type of a strike, coming in under the elbow, uppercuts, things of this nature. But not when I'm fighting, because as Master Oyata taught me, and according to him, Master Nakimura taught him, Matsubayashi Shorin-ryu, not to criticize, has a tendency of doing their sparring here in the United States, the ones I've seen, with their thumbs up like this. And Oyata taught me, very simply, when I see it, to strike twisting so I can catch this thumb and break it. The fight is over. And it doesn't matter if I'm in a tournament or not, I can always say, whoops, excuse me, when I did it deliberately. So, a couple of things about your punch. Something to help you in your training and to get you to think. The object of what we do is not to monkey see, monkey do. When you begin, yes, you must do everything correctly. But as you continue in your training, you must adapt and adjust to what suits you. That's most important. So with that, again, be grateful for what you have. Be happy as best you can. And remember, life is short. There's no reason to be miserable during it. During the Depression, even the poor could be happy. And the reality of it is, many times, poor people are much happier than the extremely well-to-do. So with that, thank God you're alive. Be happy. And I'll talk to you later. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.